Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be showing you the much requested how to make industrial hard techno in the style of randomer, BLAWAN, and object, kind of more out there stuff. To go along in this video, you can grab the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets. The entire template that you just heard in the intro is available at the top of the description on my website. You get all the samples, the MIDI, the presets, plus the project file. It's a great template to make the best techno track of your life. Really, don't miss out, guys, while it's available. Link is at the top of the description. Go ahead and grab that. I promise you'll make the best techno track of your life today if you grab this. Thank you so much for the support. Enjoy the project. It's about giving you guys really high quality templates to make the best tracks of your life. Link is at the top of the description, and let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 135 BPM, you know, a bit faster maybe than like peak time stuff, but honestly like a good tempo where you still get, I think, a really good flow and a really good groove with the drums. And it's not just like everything smacking you at once, right? So the first thing we got up here is a sidechain. Just a little click to sidechain everything too, and then we have the kick. So this kick has 6 layers. It starts with the main kick. So it's just a nice punchy kick sample. This is from my hard techno drum library. I'll put the link to that in the description as well. We've got that. And then next we have the rumble. So the way we're making this rumble is by taking that same kick and putting it through a bit of reverb. I actually have this track right here, which is like what we started with. So it's just like 100% wet reverb, and then you freeze that, right? And when you flatten it, you see how there's going to be some of these that are a bit more dense, like over here, and some that are a bit thinner. So what you do is you pick one of the ones that's a bit more dense, and then the thing that makes this kick unique, that I've never done before actually on this channel, is we got this, our rumble, and then I reversed it. So see how the rumble turns from like this hit into like this sweeping, like it kind of goes into the note. You can see it on the one up here where I actually like kept it. Yeah, and then I faded it a little bit. So if I turn off all the effects, so see, we got that. We're fading it a bit. And then it's going into an amp. Right? And then we low pass it after the amp, sidechain it to that side up there so it doesn't get messed up. And then we have a high pass cutting at 43. So we're still leaving in some bass, but obviously like cutting out a lot of the muddy stuff and just kind of making it a bit more airy. So those are the first 2 layers you're going to start with. It's just the kick and the rumble. So from there, I have this top layer to the kick. So without it, with it. So all it is that same exact kick as the main kick. I like using the same sample so that you don't get phasing issues. And what we're doing is we're making it super short with the envelope and then distorting it with this overdrive and then high passing it. And so if you listen to the original kick on its own and then add this, you can see it just gives you that extra bit of click over top. So we've got that plus the rumble. Then we have this layer. So this is made using another kick sample. What we're doing is we are actually low passing it. And then we're doing some delay and some reverb and some distortion and then a high pass and then side chaining it. So what happens is you get this like, you hear that over top of it. It kind of makes it feel like the kick feel more like a groove and less like just a big fat kick, right? It kind of gives some groove to that rumble. So this is a nice little secret layer. I heard this definitely in like the randomer tracks. There's a bit of this. And I think with this more textured industrial stuff, you want to have little elements like this. And then the last element to the kick would be these 2 layers. So you see, these are just these little kind of hits that come in. If I play the whole kick loop again, you can hear. See, they kind of just bounce off the main kick. So the first one is the 909 kick reversed. So you see we're getting that, but I made sure to fade it so it's not too clicky like that. And that's just being bandpassed and then distorted, so it's kind of like low key, but it just adds that nice groove. Like that, kind of bouncing off the kick. And then this one is that same rumble that I showed you before, the reverse rumble. I literally just took the same sample and just processed it a little bit differently. Like this one's got a bandpass. You can see it's a bit thinner and more airy, and it just contrasts really nicely off the reverse 909. And yeah, so that's all the layers together. And then the group of kick stuff is going through this EQ, which is just cutting out the sub, again, just making a bit more room and kind of making it a bit more airy. And also this utility, converting everything to mono so we don't have any issues there. Then we have a couple of rave loops in the middle. And these are really important to the whole mix. Like if you hear, so here's the whole track without them. With. Like with these kind of tracks, these things almost become like part of the hi-hats, you know? It's just these crunchy, textured loops. You can see this one is high passed, and I'm using dynamic tube, so here's without that. And see, it kind of just turns it into this nice crunchy loop. Right, and so those are adding that like heavy industrial percussion. Those are from my hard techno drum library. And then the last drum layer we have will be the hi-hats. Right, so we got like really just a lot of drum machine sounds, like this closed 606 hi-hat. A ride from the 707, which is going through a bit of chorus to make it kind of like watery and a bit stereo. And then this hi-hat, which is just like a nice punchy one. And the group there is just being sidechained a little bit. But then there's something happening here that I don't usually do in techno, but I think is really good for this style, which is we're actually doing a bit of group processing. We're putting all the drums, including the kick. I never do that, but here it works really well. We're putting all those drums into a group together, you can see. And then saturating them all together. And the key to this is definitely using the dry wet and just using like just enough to where it's gonna make them really hit and kind of get crunched together, but just not like overly crunched so that it's lost. So here's with no saturation. See, it's already very solid and hard hitting. Then with. So the saturation is just like a nice layer. Like that, where you can see, you know, it crunches these together. It definitely makes everything just kind of more glued together and kind of feel like one drum section rather than all these individual drums. But it's not taking over and it's not messing things up. So it's got the drive up like that. And I'm also using these down here, like this bass frequency. If I set that to normal. And then where we have it, you can see that definitely makes things kind of crunch together a lot more. Like the way you get the hi-hats crunching against the kick, the bass frequency is the key to that. And then you see the dry wet's only at 17%. Like if I start turning that up, yeah, you don't want that, right? So it's just kind of blending it at the right amount. To where it's a layer and it's not going to take over the whole drums. So then we have the synths starting with this ARP. So here's the MIDI for this. If you look, it's really simple. It's literally just F sharp, 2 octaves of F sharp, and then this F. I think with these kinds of ARPs where they sound so catchy and yet somehow like crazy, also, it's really, the key is you need like very simple notes. Like it really shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 or maybe 4 notes, you know? Because the more notes you add, the more like complex it gets, to a point where like you can't even really tell what's happening. But if you keep it really simple like this, it becomes really catchy and it's not throwing so much information at you. The other key is having a lot of space. You notice this will just hit and then it'll take a moment and then hit again and then take a moment. And it's like allowing it to kind of groove off the drums. And putting the hits in the right place to where it won't take over and just be like too rapid fire to where you can't even really pay attention to it. Now, for the sound on this one is made with Operator. What we're doing here is it's some sine wave FM. You can see it's 3 sine waves in different octaves here. Sine waves are really the key to these like very digital, metallic FM sounds. But what's really making this is the detune. If I set this back to normal, see how it's like super clean and flat, and then if you detune it a bunch like that, that's how you really get that uneasy metal sound. Because, metallic sounds like resonances and stuff, that's what's creating that, is the fact that they are like a bit detuned. It's never just like perfectly in tune like a digital synth, right? So we've got that. And then we have the low pass filter with a bit of an envelope, hard shaper on it. As well, if I turn the shaper off, you can see that does a lot. Right? And we also have an LFO on the filter cutoff, just moving that around pretty heavily. So that's what's making it shift over time. Then we have a bit of echo, right? Just dotted eighth notes, filtered, so it's not too heavy. We have a bit of drum bus, only at 19%, but here's without it. And then with it, subtle layer to just push it to the max without like actually just blowing out the sound. We have a bit of hybrid reverb, which is important for this. Here's without that. And with it, it's one of those subtle things that really makes this sound, I think. And then just a high pass filter. We're not even side chaining this. We want to let it breathe in the mix. So then we have this vector synth. So what's happening with this is we're playing just straight 16 notes. You can see they're pretty short. And what we're doing is I'm using this vector grain. This is from one of the new Ableton Suite Packs. Like I think it's called Inspired by Nature. It's the same one that has the bouncing notes one that a lot of people use. So what this is it's like a granular synth. And then you can kind of like control using this vector how it modulates. So you can see we're getting this cool morphing sound. I put a percussion in here. Like it's literally like this. If I show you the original sample, it's that. One of the percussions from the Hard Techno drum library. And you can see this is moving all around using the settings here. Like you set it to control these different things. And I also have this LFO over here, this random LFO, moving the pitch, the fine tune. So it just moves all over the place, and you get this crazy morphing little synth just using a sample, right? And then that's going through a bit of delay, 16th notes, a low pass filter with a little 16th note LFO. So here's without that. You can see it gives it a lot of rhythm and kind of like chug. And then we've got an overdrive. There's the LFO, a high pass, and then it's being sidechained. And then the last synth down here is this groan. So if you play this with the other synths, it just adds like a nice kind of like bottom layer. Like those other synths are very metallic and up high. And then you just have this like underneath it. That just hits every now and then, and it fits really well in the mix. Right, so we got that. It's made with analog, actually. So what it is, it's 2 square waves and noise going into a low pass filter, which is sent, or a formant filter, which is being sent into a low pass filter. You can see the formant filter has a bit of an LFO on it, so it's just constantly moving. The low pass has an envelope, so that's how you're getting kind of a more plucky sound. This is the cool thing with analog, is you can do this, so you can kind of like combine filters and create something crazy like this. And then we got the amp envelope like that. A bit of unison. We have an EQ, which just kind of makes it like a bit cleaner going into the processing. Here's without that. With it, you can see, so it really shapes the sound so it doesn't get too blown out by the distortion. We've got a bit of delay and hybrid reverb then going into this amp. So here's without that. With it, again without. With it, these kind of sounds, you really want to take some type of distortion, and you're going to use that like really juicy formant filtered sound to kind of like push it even further into the distortion and get all these crazy textures that you're hearing, right? So we've got that. It's being sidechained, and then we have a high pass filter, and yeah. that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video. This entire template is available at the top of the description on my website for just $5. It's a really great template. I promise this is designed to be the best template for this style on the market that you can grab right now, so you can make the best techno tracks of your life. Today, it's all about just giving you guys that value and giving you something that'll really help you and get where you've been trying to get. So definitely grab this template if you want to make the best tracks of your life. Thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.